Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. I am Lily. Today I'm going to push some limits, and with the new Migrants patch I'm going to find out how long can I keep a tribe alive through the decades. Some people think that as soon as they are done building everything that you can build in the game is actually done. However, that is only the start. The challenging part tends to start after year 5. In order to survive for more than 5 years, you have to make adjustments and mix and tricks with policies and groups in order to make everyone survive without migrating, and at the same time keep them happy so they do not leave your tribe. When you have over 50 population and you are staying in the same locality, your challenges will start piling up as the years will go by. In the first 5 years, you will have plenty food, all plant produce, you will have plenty fish, you will have plenty prey, and all the materials right at your doorstep. All your gatherers will be efficient due to this, and you will normally not have any issues even at a poor locality. We also need to take into consideration that the tribe leader at times will make it very difficult for you to run a smooth tribe. The challenge of ancient cities lies ahead. It is early access, hence it is in development, and things will go step by step. This also means that not everything that will come to the game is implemented yet. Please bear this in mind. If you are new at playing Ancient Cities, I highly recommend that you either go to the Steam forums and go through some of the guides that are there, or find some of the tutorials on YouTube. But everyone who wants to do the challenge, you are welcome to follow me on this journey. And I believe in us all. This will be a video series, and it will be a playthrough after year 12. The tribe I plan on using is a testing tribe that I started when the developers released the first iteration of the migrant patch onto the developers server. The food seed in this area is very poor. This tribe is 12 years going into its 13th year. But I will take you back to the start on year 0, and then I will go year by year and try to explain how I do things and how you can best survive for as long as possible to start with in the same locality. And then as time goes by, we will have to migrate whether we like it or not. This is how I've started this tribe. The first thing I always do is to place down the fireplace and also a pelt hut. And as we are waiting for food and other materials to come in, to be able to build more, I start placing down what I would like to have as a long-term project. The long-term project I decided to place down in this tribe was not the usual Stonehenge that I tend to build. Instead, I decided to place a menhir on each and every side of each and every entrance, and I estimated this to take roughly between 10 and 15 years to complete. And as you can see, the menhirs are built only by people who either has done their chores for the day or that cannot fit into any other groups. This is a straggler group, and I always place it on absolute lower priority with the highest amount of vacancies available. In order for the straggling group to function the way I want it to, I need to place all other groups on higher priority, otherwise they will fill the spots that might be needed elsewhere. The straggler group should basically only contain people that has no other task at that moment. It will also then fluctuate as you go through the tasks. This is how I place my groups to start with, always when I land a tribe. It is important that you from day one do not waste any food or any scarcer resources. The hunters are only tasked to kill boars. Boars are the only prey that you have in the game that will eat the same food as you, which is why the hunters are only tasked with hunting boars. If you do not waste your food, but rather become very frugal, you should be able to not hunt any other animals for at least 5 to 10 years. In that time, the other prey that you are not hunting will grow to very, very large flocks. And due to circle of life, any self-fed animals will be stripped, and they will manage to keep a nice trickle of meat year round for your tribe. At the start, you will not be needing a lot of tools, and you should be very careful with overproducing. Some of the materials that are needed to make several types of tools are in only a set amount per locality. This means that when you are out, The resources will not regenerate. This goes for both the flint cores and also the fine raw stones. All the gathering groups that comes home with resources should have a limit. It is vital for long-term survival. There is no point in bringing home 1200 hazelnuts when your tribe of 16 will only manage a fraction of this. It means huge waste of resources. Do keep in mind that all the resources that are organic and can decay in the game will last a lot longer in their place of origin. For instance, the rose hips will last longer on the bush than they will in any of our storage facilities. Rule number one in long-term survival is do not waste any food. The only food type in the game that you should never have any limits on is the meat from dead animals. When an animal is dead, the rotting process is starting, and if you do not strip it, you will lose the meat. While you are still building in your camp and your population is growing, you can easily place all these common materials on a very high number. You will need 200 for a big straw hut, and you will need 150 plus sticks on a very regular basis, not only to maintain any pits you're building, but also to keep the fireplaces going. Sticks are also used in many other things in your tribe, so you should try to keep the amount to roughly 100 at all times. You do not need to worry too much about the common materials because they are not very likely going to run out in any locality. To achieve higher efficiency from the crafters, you should place all the materials they need in order to craft tools and other materials in the same area. You should also make sure that they have a place to sit to do their work. If you do not arrange for all the materials to be close by to anywhere the crafters can sit, they will take with them the materials they need to craft and then go find a place to sit. Meaning, if they do not have a place to sit close to the materials, they will be inefficient. And no crafter will ever do any work standing up. Due to the tribe leaders, you cannot place the tribe policies exactly as you see fit. You have to follow the restrictions that they have placed. This is the default policies that has been set by the game, and no tribe leader will ever go lower on labor age, lower on labor time, or higher on rationing. This is the absolute max of what they will either reduce or increase any of the policies to be. Remember that the better traits or grades of the traits that your tribe leader has, the more freedom you have to choose how you want your policies. Do not ration your people too much. They will become sick, they will die, and they will certainly leave the tribe. Do not lower your labor time too much because that means you will not get enough food or resources to your camp. Do not have it too high. It means you are wearing your people out. You will kill them or they will leave you. You can, however, play around quite a bit with the labor age. It is advisable, though, to not let the eldest work and to not let the youngest work. And I personally think that this is the best way to keep it, at least at the start. Before the winter sets in, I would like to have up all my food production items, such as the dryers for both fish and also for meat. At the start, for me at least, it's enough with one of each, because the fishing and the meat income will be as controlled as I can do it. Fishermen does not have any production limits, so if you want them to not produce as much, you have to put it on pause or remove some of the people in the group. Even though you can control your hunters and how big the group is and if they are going to hunt at all, you should not try to control the meat that comes in from your gatherers from stripping. Next, I would want a tanner to be able to create more pelt huts, because they will be in the majority along with the straw huts. If you are planning on staying a long term in the same locality, you should not build more than one reed hut and max 2 storehouses. This is because there are so few places that can sustain more than 1 decade of reed use. I also then would like to get corresponding baskets for each of my dryers. Yeah, we got migrants already. That is great. So I shall accept these and then have a look. There are 2 in this group. It's a nice size for a starter tribe. An elder man and also a young girl. She is almost an adult, so she will be able to work. I think I should accept these people. The migrants will join any group that is free and also make their way to the camp. They are immediately integrated. No migrant group will ever contain any pregnant women, nor will it contain any women that are carrying any babies. In order to have children in the group, there must be at least one teenager in the group, otherwise the group will need an adult. Now that winter is upon us, I am going to create more huts. I always like to place down a haystack to keep the straw fresh while it's gathering up to 200. If the amount of straw you need is coming in too slowly, it can mean a few things. It can either mean that your groups are too busy, or that your group has too many tasks to divide their work hours on, or that your group has too few workers. Instead of then fiddling with the groups, you can use the clear task tool to ask the entire tribe to help out for a short while. In order to use the clear task tool, press the clear task button, shape it as you see fit, and circle in roughly the amount you need for at least one hut. We already have 55, so we are going to need a little bit more than 126. 169 should do it. Make sure that you only do cropping, no gathering. Make sure that you're not cropping anything that cannot grow back. If you're too slow building huts for everyone to sleep in, they might grow unrest to a point where they actually will leave. This is will depending, and the more will they have, the more likely they are to leave you. There are warning systems though, so if you see an angry face turning reddish, it is time to really get the huts up. Now that we have enough straw, we should start building a big straw hut. As soon as this straw hut is up, people will start rotating and sleeping in it. This means that you can get rid of all your angry faces by only using one straw hut. It has to be of big quality, otherwise there is no increase in sleep positivity. As your tribe grows, you will need to place down several more straw huts and also place down several more peltals. Also try to have at least one big reed hut, as this will keep even the most grumpy people in your tribe content. If your locality has very little reed, you should be very careful building more than one big reed hut. You should also not build more than one or max two storehouses. However, if your locality has plenty reed, you can easily build both a large reed hut, two storehouses, and as time goes by, if reed allows it, you can even build more. If you do not plan to stay long term, you can use the reed as you see fit. If you plan to stay long term, be very frugal. Now that the big straw hut is ready, I am going to help the tribe out by getting a little bit more reed and a bit quicker. I will use the clear task tool and I will make sure that I only crop the very mature reed. Avoid cropping the light green or the non-fully matured reed, as that means you will not get the full amount that they can produce. We can now place down the big reed hut. The big reed hut has a 50% increased sleep positivity, so it will keep all your grumpy people very happy once they've slept in it. We can also create more pelt huts because we now have 5 more leather. I have already placed these down, so now I just take it off pause and watch as it gets built. I will now jump to year 3 of the same tribe. As you can see, in year 3 we already have plenty housing up. We also have all the pits placed. We also then have the storehouse for the meat and also for the fish. This locality does not have the best of resources, and the fishing pools are far and few between, so I have had to up my fishermen to 7 in order to have a nice trickle of fish coming in. This is just one of very many adjustments you will have to do all the time as you're growing your tribe. Unfortunately for me, this means that this tribe will not manage to stay several decades in the same place. It will not be lacking fiber or reed because there's plenty of those materials. It is, however, the food that has a very bad seed. I estimate between 12 and 15 years. Then the food will be gone and we will have to migrate. The hunters have hunted all the boars, so now we do not need to compete for food with the boars. There will, however, be several years before the remaining flocks of prey will manage to sustain our tribe in a decent manner. As you can see, the majority of the groups have had their people either lowered or increased. You lower, for instance, those who have a low quota to get. For instance, these are maintenance numbers only, meaning that you're not planning on building anything. For instance, reed is only 35 because that is roughly the amount you need to maintain a big reed hut per year. Other groups, however, will have their members increased as the tribe are growing in population. As you can see, the limit has also been changed. After many years in the same locality with a population of over 100, I guarantee you will only be using the infinity. Now that the hunters are done removing all the boars in this locality, I would like to have a look at some of the flocks and how big they have become. Since we are only in year 3, we should not really expect to have any large amounts of animals. They will slowly but steady increase, and roughly after year 10 to 12 they can become a real good staple for several years. Deer are the second largest prey we have in the game, and they will grow their flock a little bit quicker than the horses. The quickest growing population of any of the prey we have is without a doubt the hare. The hare will get several kids in one go, and they only live for roughly 4 years. When they die, at roughly age 4, they will give a max amount of 2 meat. In comparison, a horse at fully grown will give 50 meat. I'm now going to jump to year 4. As we can see, the fisherman has been increased by 1 person, while the gathering is staying the same. The population has increased as I have accepted a small group of migrants and also had a few pregnancies. The adjustments I did in year 4 was all minor. So let's go to year 5. In year 5, we can see that the meat from self-dead animals that have lived a long life is starting to trickle in. This means that my fishermen suddenly were producing too much, and I have placed them down to 6. When meat is trickling in nicely as it is in this year, there will be much less strain on all the other resources of foods that needs to be gathered. The population has also only increased with 1, and I have had no migrants. Let's quickly move on to year 6. The first thing to notice in year 6 is that we now have a new tribe leader. Our old one died from old age, and we have an excellent new one. However, she is so old that she will only live for another few weeks. This also means that all the restrictions are placed on absolute max. When the restrictions are especially on the labor age like this, it means that there will be many people loitering around in the camp doing nothing. However, it is the tribe leader's empathy that will decide all the policies. As we can see, the population has not really grown. There are 3 pregnancies coming in though, so there will be more people. However, their food income has been so poor that I have had to up my fishermen to the whopping number of 12. This only goes to show that the fishing in this locality is extremely poor, even though it is a long and forked river. In my optimism, I added down 4 more minutes, and I think I was a little bit optimistic because I'm pretty sure I will not manage to complete any of these projects. None of the food gathering groups have been increased because there just is not enough food anyway. You can see that the numbers in the gathering groups are fluctuating all the time because there basically is too little for everyone to have a task. The hunters are still restricted to only going for boars, and as you can see, there is a small trickle of meat coming in on a regular basis. The amount is not large, and it will soon not be enough to sustain anyone. However, I will still continue to do the fishing on large scale in order to keep everyone happy. When the time comes that I need 3 times as many fishermen as I normally do to sustain people, I will open up for hunting on a few of the other species. I will try to make them last as long as possible by only doing a few at a time. Let's move on to year 7. As we can see, we have another tribe leader. He does, however, have a fitness reducing grade. This means that he is likely going to lower the work age and the work hours much sooner than if he had no poor grades. This is not a good thing, as the workforce will be extremely lowered and my groups will suffer as a consequence. We also have an increase in population and more coming in. As you can see, I'm still not allowing my hunters to hunt anything but the boars, but we are coming to a time where I might have to open up for other species to be hunted as well. There are still some meat coming in, trickling in, and for now we will see how long it will last. I have also had to up my fishermen to 14, which is an insanely large number for a population of 50. Normally, you can calculate roughly one fisherman per 10 members. This only shows that this is probably one of the worst fishing seasons I've ever had. I will, however, keep going and try to stay as long as possible. Let's move on to year 8. We now have a population of 55 people and it's getting more and more difficult to feed them all. The groups have mostly stayed the same, but my project group is suffering greatly because I need everyone else to go and gather food. I have also opened up for the hunters to hunt for other prey as well. I have included the hares. This is why we suddenly have an increase in meat, meaning there is less strain on the fishing. And I've also added one more hunter to the group. And as we also can see, the boars are back. A few boars have migrated, but my hunters are already on their tails. My leader is now over 60 years old. This means that his fitness will slowly but surely reduce until he passes away from old age. As he becomes older, he will also decrease the work age and also the work hours. I am also adding more straw huts as the population is growing. When there are few people free to join my straggler group, it means that my projects will take even longer. Let's move on to year 9. My leader has now placed more limitations on the labor age because he is slowly dying. He is at 25 out of 100 fitness. When he reaches the number 10, a skull will appear on his head and the countdown till he passes will begin. We as players have no say in who becomes a leader and you have to accept whoever is picked. We are now at 68 population and I have had to increase my fishermen to another group of 6. I have also increased the amount of people in my food gathering groups and we now have 16 who are actively gathering all plant foods. I would normally have more people on the task, but since the tribe leader has placed the restrictions to this age, I have no choice but to try to divide them as best as I can. I am now considering placing my food rationings on in the hopes that they will manage to sustain the tribe until this leader dies and hoping we will get one who will lift the restrictions. My hunters are still only 2 and they are still only allowed to hunt 2 different types of species. It is a nice income as you can see from other self-fed animals, so at the moment it is not precarious. However, if I have no luck with the next tribe leader, I will have to first of all put on the first notch of rationing and then I will have to include other species to hunt. I will not do this very lightly, nor will I be very happy about it, because it will mean that me saving up all the prey to have a rich trickle for years to come will be hindered. But if your tribe is starving, you have to do the hunting. This means that the population that I have saved up of prey will be diminished until they reach roughly the size I had at year 4. And this in turn will mean that I will lose the good trickle I had a year ago. Let's move on to year 10. My tribe leader is now dying. He has also placed the absolute max, except for rationing, on all the policies he can possibly do. In a few months' time, this leader will pass and we will get a new one. I have upped my fishermen to 22, and as you can see on the amount, it is going basically from hand to mouth. I also have increased the amount of species that the hunter shall go for, and this time it is the deer. You can see the success in the amount of meat that has come in. This also means that the amount of fish needed will be lowered and hence they can build up a good storage of dried fish. Also with summer coming up, there should be less amounts of fish and meat eaten. If I keep my hunters to 2 and make sure that they do not overhunt, I could survive for several more years with the nice trickle of meat. We are still getting migrants. Let's have a look at this group. It is huge. Are you serious? If I accept these, there is no way I can reach year 15. No way. But I wanted to show you guys how you can have a proper challenge after year 5 in ancient cities. So here we go. I will get them. I will accept them and take it from here. I accept the challenge. Year 10, population 83 and more incoming. Well, this means that there will not be enough huts for everyone, so here goes to placing down some more. I will place down at least one of the straw huts, and then I will also chuck down a few of the pelt huts. We have enough always for at least one straw hut, and we also have enough to make 2 pelt huts. Accepting this large group of migrants also is, of course, a severe strain on my already limited food resources, so I am very likely going to have to put on rationing very soon. It, however, cannot be done until my leader dies because he has maxed out all his restrictions. This takes away any option I have to save my people if there is incoming a famine, at least via using the policies. I will then need to up my hunters to avoid a famine. As we can see, the food is very quickly diminishing, so I have had to up my hunters to 6, and I've also opened up for all the species except the horses. They will be the last resort. When you are in a rather poor locality, any rules about how to not overhunt or overfish or overgather go straight out the window as soon as you reach a population of 80 plus. There is no way you can be frugal or stingy on any of the food. I have 2 maxed out fishing groups and we are still having too little food coming in. Unless my hunters can stave off the famine, we will have to migrate sooner rather than later. I will now also need to add more dryers for the meat. When you dry your raw food, they will last a lot longer. Each dryer can take 24 meat. My old tribe leader has died, and look what we just got. We have a really strong female leader. I can now put up the labor age, and I will increase the rationing to the first notch. This also means that when I have it on 1 notch on the rationing, I can in theory reduce my hunters to only 3. Let's see how this goes. We are now summer year 11. We have managed to stave off famine for the last few years with way too many people in the tribe. During the Mesolithic, having more than 100 in any tribe was extremely rare. It would then be fair to say that the developers have managed to make the game very realistic because we are struggling. We are definitely pushing the limits. But here we are with over 100 members, and the food is from hand till mouth. You can see all the changes that I have had to make. I have 3 groups of 14 that is doing fishing only. I also have 3 full groups for stripping and for plant produce. My tribe leader is as strong as ever, and she has not hit down on any of the restrictions that I have placed. I still have the rationing on only 1 notch. If you are going to put the rationing higher, you will run the risk of at least your children growing weak and also sick due to lack of nutrition. There needs to be very careful consideration before you up it too much and certainly for too long. If you have higher rationing for too long, you are basically killing off your future workforce. I do have 4 hunters and they are hunting everything except the horses. Summer, year 12, population 133. We have now stayed 12 years in the same place, and the last few we have played with over 80 population. There is no more plant food. The fish is almost gone. We are also all out of prey, and we cannot afford to wait for any of these species to immigrate to us. They will, however, be in way too small amounts to sustain the tribe for more than a few sleeps. Keeping in mind that this locality was very poor to start with, I think we have done rather well. If this had been a really decent locality, we could have managed to stay quite a few more years. That is it for this episode of the Migrant Patch Challenge. We are going to say goodbye to this place in the next episode, and I will start with preparing for migration, and then we are going to work on everything that we need to do once we have landed at the new locality. It will bring with it a whole new set of challenges that we must work through. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you have enjoyed watching me overcome these challenges, and I do hope to see you in my next episode of the Migrant Patch Challenge. Until then, have fun and take care.